Hello, I'm Stephen Harrison, co-artistic director of the Ives Collective. I want to introduce you to our Salon Concerts, each of which presents a work of chamber music up close and personal, the way it was intended to be heard. Our salons give you the opportunity to dive more deeply into where and when the music was written and to learn how the musicians feel and think about what they're playing. At a salon, we invite you to join the musicians and the wonderful Derek Katz, our musicologist moderator, as we pull back the curtains. Derek is incredible at putting each piece into historical context and engaging the musicians for insights on how we approach the piece. Here's a sample of the kind of insights you'll get from Derek's commentary, taken from a salon that featured a string quartet by Fanny Mendelssohn Hensel.
So, as someone who was trained in the later 20th century, I was trained sort of through music history. So, you learn to write counterpoint by writing sort of fake 16th century music, and then you fake Palestrina, and then you learn to write harmony by writing fake 18th century music. You write fake Bach chorales, and you work your way up to writing fake Haydn piano sonatas, and so on and so forth. Right. We're getting nods. Model composition, we call it. But this was a very new and unusual thing at the beginning of the 19th century. So both Fanny and Felix worked their way through music history in order to learn how to be composers. They did essentially exactly the same thing. They wrote fake Bach chorales. They filled in additional voices. They wrote fake Baroque dances. Fanny in particular wrote lots of gavottes, and then they sort of worked their way through music history to get to the present. And so this is something that I think is very audible, really in all of their music, but particularly in the string quartet that you're about to hear. And then in particular, there's the question of Beethoven. So this is a piece written in 1834. Beethoven was still alive when Felix and Fanny were students. So, for them, this was not the past so much. This was the present that they were grappling with as adolescents. And so Felix, his first two published quartets, what we know as the Opus 12 and Opus 13 quartets, written in the opposite order, are filled with really, really audible references to the Beethoven quartets that Felix had been listening to. And again, late Beethoven for Felix was new music. Some of these pieces he actually got in manuscript before they were published. You can, again, his grappling with them is very audible in his pieces. So one of the things that it's not fair, because you're not going to hear all the pieces leading up to it, but the piece that you're about to hear by Fanny Mendelssohn is to a certain extent a response to Felix responding to Beethoven. And Fanny was very clear about this, and she wrote a rather sort of self-deprecating letter to Felix in which, I could quote it, in which she sort of speaks of Felix having sort of composed his way through late Beethoven and come out on the other side with a style that's informed by Beethoven but is his, distinctively his, whereas she, Fanny, was still sort of grappling with Beethoven. Now, I don't think she was fair to herself, but that idea of working through all that sort of intimidatingly canonical repertoire and figuring out a way to be yourself, positioning yourself with respect to Beethoven, or in Fanny's case, this kind of triangular relationship where she's positioning herself with respect to her brother and also with respect to Beethoven, is a fascinating one, which I think can lead us directly to the first movement of the quartet. The very first bars of the Fanny Mendelssohn Quartet are in shape, key, outline, just like Felix being just like Beethoven. So am I correct, quartet players, that you cannot get to bar 5 without thinking, man, this sounds like Felix sounding like Ludwig?
We don't have time to hear the entire discussion, but that is indeed what we felt. Derek gives you a sense of what Fanny was trying to do in composing this piece. But creating a moving performance requires so much more than playing the notes and rhythms that appear on the sheet music. Like the text of a play, where the words are just the beginning, musical language requires its own unique interpretation. At our salons, you'll hear about our rehearsal process, how we decided to interpret the language and come to some of the decisions we've made. It's something like attending a theatrical rehearsal, where the director of a play peppers the rehearsal with thoughts on how actors should move or how to present part of the script. It's exciting for us to share our ideas with you and explain why we made certain choices, and maybe even play the choices we rejected. We might even give you a chance to vote. This kind of engagement with our audience is what makes a salon special. We often discuss things like performing style. For example, what's the difference between the sound we make when we're playing Mozart versus playing, say, Brahms? How do we achieve a kind of transparency in sound and interpretation so that our audience hears our view of how the music should go? How do we choose a tempo? What's the secret to playing together without the benefit of a conductor? This is the inside baseball that makes the enjoyment of chamber music so much deeper. We hope you will join us at our salon concerts this coming season. Ticket information is on our website, ivescollective.org. Now let's listen to the first movement of Fanny's quartet. see you in the salon.